The first time I saw her, she was made of light and metal. Not literally, but that's how it felt. The entire reception hall aboard the Galactic Concorde flagship shimmered with crystalline architecture. Transparent pillars rose like frozen lightning, refracting the glow of distant stars through massive observation windows. Representatives from 12 species stood in clusters, whispering in tones that ranged from ultrasonic chirps to telepathic pulses. And at the center of it all, she stood alone, tall, graceful, draped in layered fabrics that seemed woven from liquid starlight. A silver mask covered the upper half of her face, smooth and reflective, concealing her features from brow to cheekbones. Only her mouth was visible, calm, controlled, unreadable. She was the princess of the Varelian ascendancy. And I was just a human security liaison assigned to keep the peace during her diplomatic tour of Terran-controlled space. My name is Marcus Hale. Former infantry. Earthborn. Nothing special. At least that's what I thought. The Varelians were known for their technological superiority and genetic refinement. Their culture valued perfection. Physical, intellectual, aesthetic. They rarely showed their faces to outsiders, preferring ceremonial masks to maintain what they called symbolic distance. No one had ever seen the princess without hers. Rumor said her face was flawless beyond comprehension. Rumor also said it was the opposite. No one knew the truth, until the night the assassins came. The attack happened during a private transfer between ships. Her escort cruiser had docked with the Concorde flagship for secure negotiations. My team was positioned along the transit corridor when the lights flickered, then died. Emergency crimson illumination pulsed along the walls. Motion sensors screamed. 3 unidentified signatures breached from the maintenance shafts. Fast, precise, heavily armed. They weren't amateurs. They moved like professionals. The first shot dropped one of my men before he could react. "Princess down?" I shouted, drawing my sidearm. Her Varelian guards formed a defensive arc, but they hesitated, calculating trajectories, seeking optimal solutions. Humans don't calculate. We react. I tackled the nearest assassin as he lunged forward. We hit the floor hard. His blade grazed my shoulder. I slammed my forehead into his visor, disorienting him, then drove my elbow into his throat joint. Behind me, plasma fire scorched the corridor walls. I rolled, fired twice, disabled the second attacker. The third grabbed the princess. And that's when something changed. She didn't scream. She didn't plead. Her silver mask flared faintly with internal light. The attacker froze mid-motion. For half a second. That was enough. I charged, ignoring the burn in my arm, and rammed into both of them. We crashed against the bulkhead. I wrenched the assassin's weapon free and struck him across the temple. He collapsed. Silence followed. The emergency lights hummed softly. The princess stood perfectly still. Her mask dimmed. And for the first time she looked directly at me. "You chose immediate action over calculated survival," she said, her voice melodic but carrying an undercurrent of something deeper, curiosity. "Yeah," I muttered, breathing hard. "That's kind of our thing." Her head tilted slightly. "Why?" "Because if I waited," I replied, "you'd be dead." The faintest pause. "Your probability of survival decreased by 73% when you charged." I shrugged. "Still here." She studied me for a long moment. "Human Marcus Hale," she said softly, "you are inefficient." I smirked. "Maybe." Another pause. "But you are remarkable." And in that instant something shifted between us. Middle beneath the mask. After the assassination attempt, security protocols tightened. My assignment changed from general liaison to personal protective detail, which meant I was never far from her. The princess moved through diplomatic halls like a living symbol, elegant, distant, flawless. But when we were alone, she asked questions. "So humans willingly risk themselves for others without guarantee of genetic advantage?" "Yeah." "You form attachments quickly." "Guilty." "You age rapidly." "Hey, we prefer efficiently." There was humor in her silence. One evening, aboard the observation deck overlooking the spiral arms of the galaxy, she stood beside me. "You are unafraid of me," she observed. I've met scarier, I replied. Her head turned slightly. Clarify. Politicians. A soft sound escaped her, almost laughter. Then her tone shifted. Among my people I am considered delicate. I frowned. You don't look delicate. That is because you see only projection. She lifted a slender hand to the edge of her mask. My pulse quickened. Marcus, she said quietly, do humans equate external symmetry with worth? Some do, I admitted. Not the smart ones. And if symmetry is absent? I shrugged. Then you find something better. Her hand lingered at the mask. But she didn't remove it. Not yet. Days later, during a hyperspace transit, the ship suffered a catastrophic engine malfunction. Sabotage. Residual faction loyal to anti-Varelian extremists. The explosion rocked the vessel violently. Power grids failed. Life support fluctuated. We were thrown into darkness. Structural alarms blared. A secondary blast ruptured the corridor behind us, sealing off escape. She was pinned beneath fallen debris. I rushed forward, ignoring the unstable deck plating. The debris was heavy, far heavier than I should have been able to lift. But adrenaline doesn't check weight limits. I strained, muscles screaming, and shifted enough of it to pull her free. That's when her mask cracked. A jagged fracture ran across its surface, light flickering erratically beneath. She froze. No, she whispered. Hey, it's okay, I said, scanning for more threats. It is not. The mask deactivated entirely. And slowly, she removed it. The truth revealed. Her face wasn't monstrous. It wasn't grotesque. But it wasn't what the galaxy expected. The left side was flawless, smooth, luminous skin with faint silver tracery glowing beneath. The right side, scarred. Not burned. Not mutilated. But marked by intricate, branching patterns of darker tissue, like shattered crystal frozen beneath her skin. Her right eye glowed dimmer, its golden hue fractured with faint lines. It wasn't ugly. It was different. And in Varelian society, different meant flawed. I was born during a stellar radiation storm, she said softly. My cellular regeneration was incomplete. I looked at her. Really looked. You saved me, she continued. And now you see what others are shielded from. There was something fragile in her voice. Something no royal training could conceal. If I were not princess, she said quietly, I would not be permitted public life. Silence stretched between us as distant fires crackled along damaged conduits. Then she asked the question. If I remove the projection entirely, if I stand before you without mask, without illusion. She stepped closer. Could you still care for me? The galaxy could have ended in that moment. I would have barely noticed, because the most powerful being in this sector was afraid of rejection. I reached out slowly, touched the scarred side of her face gently. You think this makes you less? I asked. It deviates from perfection. I smiled softly. Where I come from, scars mean you survived. Her fractured golden eye widened slightly. This, I said, tracing one of the branching lines with my thumb, isn't imperfection. It is evidence. Of what? That you lived through something powerful enough to leave a mark. She inhaled sharply. And you are not disturbed? I chuckled softly. Princess, I've got a metal plate in my shoulder and a nose that's been broken 3 times. You're doing just fine. For the first time. She smiled without restraint. And it was breathtaking. Rising tensions, a throne divided. News of the mask's destruction spread quickly. Whispers rippled through Varelian command. Some saw vulnerability. Others saw opportunity. A council faction argued she was unfit to rule, genetically compromised, symbolically weakened. They challenged her legitimacy. Not openly, but strategically. Trade routes stalled. Military support wavered. And a formal declaration arrived. If the princess could not embody perfection, she could not embody sovereignty. She would be required to step down. Unless she presented proof of unifying strength. And that proof was alliance. A union with a species deemed resilient beyond genetic symmetry. Humanity. The implication was clear. Marry strategically. Restore symbolic dominance. I confronted her privately. You don't need to do this for politics, I said. She regarded me calmly. I do not. Then why consider it? She stepped closer. Because when I asked if you could still care for me, you did not hesitate. I swallowed. And that matters? It redefines value. The council convened before representatives of multiple systems. She entered without her mask. Gasps echoed. She did not hide her scars. She did not project illusion. She stood fully revealed. And then, she took my hand. I am Varelian, she declared. I am marked by survival. I am shaped by adversity. Her grip tightened slightly. And I choose alliance not from weakness, but from strength found in difference. The chamber buzzed. One counselor stepped forward. You bind yourself to an inferior species. She didn't flinch. I bind myself to resilience. Silence fell. And in that silence, the future shifted. Ending a love without masks. The formal union was not extravagant. No grand illusions. No ceremonial concealment. She stood beside me under open stars, scars visible, hands steady in mine. The Varelian populace watched carefully, waiting for doubt, waiting for hesitation. Instead, they saw something unprecedented. Their princess laughing softly at a human's terrible joke. Their ruler unmasked and unashamed. Years later, historians would mark that moment as the beginning of the Varelian Renaissance. A cultural shift from genetic obsession to experiential worth. Medical advancements focused on healing, not erasing uniqueness. Children born with variations were no longer hidden. They were celebrated. And at the center of it all, stood a princess who once feared showing her face. Extended final reflection. One evening, long after the political storms had settled, we stood again on an observation deck. No guards. No council. Just stars. You altered my civilization, she said softly. You did that yourself, I replied. She touched the scar along her cheek thoughtfully. I once believed this made me unworthy. And now I believe it made me honest. She turned to me fully. When I removed my mask that day, I expected revulsion. You got something else. Yes. She smiled gently. Acceptance. I brushed my thumb along one of the branching lines. Care isn't about perfection, I said quietly. It's about choice. And you chose. Every time. The galaxy outside stretched infinitely, cold, vast, indifferent. But inside that quiet moment, warmth existed. Not because of symmetry. Not because of genetic superiority. But because two beings from different worlds decided that scars didn't diminish love. They deepened it. She removed her mask and asked if I could still care for her. The truth? I never cared about the mask. I cared about the girl brave enough to take it off.